Hey scholars, it's Geronimo here. I hope your new year's going well. I hope New Year's bringing some new positive vibes, and I hope you guys are staying safe and staying healthy with you and your loved ones. And AEP just wanted to check in with a new video for you. So today we're gonna talk about HBCUs. I'm repping mine right here, one of my favorites, Morehouse. And we're going to discuss what a HBCU is and why it's so important to us in the Black community and why you should consider one. Because even though we go to UCLA, we really wanted to highlight another option for you guys, something outside of LA and a place where, you know, you could be and see yourself down the road, because we just want to show you the options. Because at the end of the day, what's important for us is to show you that there could be a space where, you know, you're not the only Black kid in class, and you get to live a college experience at one point in your life with other Black people and a whole school of them. And so in this video, we're going to discuss the history of HBCUs, why they were developed and why they're so important, the statistics and the benefits to go to HBCU if you choose so. And we're also going to touch on like other people's experiences at a HBCU. And these are people in our lives, like personal family members and friends who went and attended one. And we're just going to see, you know, their feelings about it. And so hope you enjoy, and here's the rest of the video. Now let's get into the history of HBCUs. These historically Black colleges and universities were made to give scholars like you and me an opportunity to receive an education. Before the Civil War, it was difficult for Black people to receive the high education that they deserved because, first and foremost, American society didn't want Black people educated at all. For the demonic American slave system to work, had to ensure that enslaved people were not educated, and so enslaved people were not allowed to read or write very basic rights to education, and if they attempted to, they were met with violence from enslavers. On top of this, the issue was that this was not just a Southern problem. The Northern United States was also very complicit in not allowing African Americans to receive access to the complete education they would like. However, even with this, being in the North provided opportunities for HBCUs to arise before the Civil War. As in 1837, the Institute for Colored Youth, now known as Cheyney University, first opened its doors near Philadelphia, and the Ashman Institute, also located near Philly, which became Lincoln University in 1866 in honor of President Lincoln. And it was established in 1854, and with this came a huge landmark in Black educational history. And after the Civil War, HBCUs only grew stronger. With the Union winning the Civil War, while things would not completely be resolved for Black people, huge steps were made, at least in the form of Black higher education. Through the efforts of Black churches, American Missionary Association, and the Freedmen's Bureau, more HBCUs were able to establish footing. Furthermore, with the landmark Second Morrill Act of 1890, states, especially former Confederate states, were required to provide land grants for institutions that served Black students because Black scholars could not necessarily get access to education elsewhere. And as a result, HBCUs became a staple. Between 1861 and 1900, more than 90 institutions of higher learning were established. And while early HBCUs focused largely on vocational training, as they went into the early 20th century, Black intellectual thought was pushed and produced the likes of W.E.B. Du Bois, Ida B. Wells, Booker T. Washington, and Martin Luther King Jr., shaping our history to this day. And these schools have also provided opportunities for more than just Black people, as they have been a source for many Latinx, Native Americans, and Asian and Pacific Islander students to gain access to education, not to mention providing opportunities for faculty from marginalized communities, as seen in World War II when HBCUs became a huge support for Jewish intellectuals escaping Nazi Germany. And through all of this history of supporting and developing students in such challenging times of histories, HBCUs have done it their way, a unique culture and experience that no other type of school can replicate. And so never forget these schools, because they are the very reason so many of our loved ones have had success. HBCUs have not only developed people like Kamala Harris, Spike Lee, and Oprah, but they've also produced your favorite teachers, your church ministers, and even your family. Whether you want to go to an HBCU during your first 4 years of college, or even as a graduate student trying to get a higher degree, always consider HBCU, because if there's one thing HBCUs will help you do, it's to leave your mark on the Black community.
Among African Americans, 40% of Black members of Congress were HBCU graduates, 12.5% of Black CEOs were HBCU graduates, 40% of Black engineers were HBCU graduates, 50% of Black professors at non-HBCUs were HBCU graduates, 50% of Black lawyers were HBCU graduates, and finally, 80% of Black judges were HBCU graduates. At HBCUs, 52% of students are first generation and 71% are low income. Essentially what this means is a lot of these students are getting chances to break generational cycles and establish better futures for themselves.
55% of HBCU graduates feel prepared for life beyond graduation, compared to only 29% of minority graduates from other colleges. Many HBCUs are located in predominantly Black areas. Many classes at HBCUs are looked at through a lens of Blackness, which is especially important for us, and it allows students to feel invested in their learning. If you look at historical legends that look like us, chances are they went to an HBCU. Martin Luther King Jr., Kamala Harris, Thurgood Marshall, Oprah, and Jerry Rice, among others, all went to HBCUs. So just know that if you go to an HBCU, you're next in line for greatness.
Students at HBCUs, 6 to 16% of HBCU students are more likely to graduate than minority students enrolled at predominantly white institutions. Did you know that HBCUs are responsible for 22% of current bachelor degrees granted to African Americans?
There are 101 HBCUs, all with a unique history and contribution to our own history, and all of these schools are amazing within their own right, ready to help scholars like you become your very best. 180. HBCUs have been around for 180 plus years of excellence, so you know when you go to an HBCU, you're amongst the very best. 25% of African American graduates with a STEM degree come from an HBCU. STEM is a very tough area of study, and HBCUs provide a space for Black students to excel in this field. An HBCU graduate can expect to earn an additional $927,000 in their lifetime, which is 56% more than they could have expected to earn without their HBCU certificate or degree. A degree is especially important for anyone, but an HBCU degree also ensures that it came in a way that students could succeed in a culture that supports them.